And they paid off the Justice Department people. We know the names. And it's trillions in Cayman Island bank accounts. And all the major Justice Department officials are being paid publicly. And it's all come out and no one gets in trouble. Kind of like it came out in February of 2011 in federal court in Chicago that the cartels do work for the U.S. government and are laundering drug money and are shipping cocaine in under U.S. authorization under Fast and Furious with 8 agencies. And it's in the federal documents, but it's never been a national news story. We broke it. Paul Watson did. And months after we broke it from the federal documents that listeners pointed out to us, the Chicago Tribune and El Paso Times did report, but nothing was done. Nothing was done. Let me explain something to you. One cartel alone brought in 5 tons in 1 year directly under ATF control. And the ATF even told them where to launder the money. And then Bloomberg even reported on it. Wells Fargo, Wachovia, they're all involved. Wells Fargo, Wachovia, $376 billion alone in 2 years. Oh, yes. The government runs it all with the big banks. $376 billion. The crack house person, Whitney Houston, isn't managing that, okay? Let me just explain how this works to everybody. God bless her soul. Crackheads running crack houses and users and poor addicts, they're not the ones doing it. Why are the drugs illegal? To boost the price so there's a big market and so all the zombies go out, the drug addicts, and rob you and carjack you and break in your house or sell their bodies. So your daughters sell their bodies to then buy drugs from low-level dealers, and then that money goes right back to the military-industrial complex. This is all on record. This is all on record. And so you got a Justice Department that's drug dealing, that's running guns to blame the Second Amendment. You bet I'm risking my life doing this. I don't care. Somebody's got to do it. I'll never commit suicide, though. Remember that. And there are good people in the Justice Department. It's compartmentalized, high-up groups. Why do we know about this? Because ATF agents in Phoenix, Arizona, Chicago, Illinois, Tampa, Florida, and other areas said, I'm not going to be part of this. It's now come out that there have been fistfights at multiple ATF facilities over this. Actual people breaking people's noses. Supervisors have had their noses broken when people say, you know, you're killing people, I'm not doing this, and fistfights break out. Okay? So it's time for the good people in the government to start going public and get past this intimidation. I'm a private citizen. I've gone public. I put my cards face down on the table. I'm out there with everything hanging out in front of God and country and everybody else. My whole family, my name, everything hanging out up against the most murderous criminals the world's ever seen. And you're like, well, why aren't you dead? Because they don't want to highlight and underline an exclamation point everything I've said and done. That's why. But it doesn't mean I hadn't been threatened, doesn't mean I hadn't been physically attacked, doesn't mean there hadn't been dirty tricks you can't imagine. And I temporarily here on this planet, here on this in this dimension, I'm alive because they don't want to highlight everything I've done. But in the spiritual realm, it's because God's got his hand on me. I'm in God's hand. And if something does happen to me, it's God's will. But I have total faith. Whatever it is, that's God's will. But listen, nobody's safe. This is what collapses societies. This is how you become third world countries, is not standing up against evil. So the murdering criminal Justice Department has no right to go after News Corps for their petty garbage. This is Alex Jones with... If you ever wanted to know what Agenda 21 is, what sustainable development means, we're going to be covering it coming up here in a few minutes. In fact, guys, reprint the USA Today. Schwarzenegger says he'll focus on states, counties, and cities for green agenda. It's all admitted by the UN. It's all on their own website, un.org, that they are setting global standards for zoning, for gardens, for farming. They say that hay dust is $5,000 fines. You can see major NAFTA highways when you drive up from Texas into Oklahoma and Kansas, where you'll drive 100 miles and there's no exit to the rural communities that are ghost towns now. They just block the highways and build McDonald's and things in the middle. That's all Agenda 21. And it's all admitted. And it's so frustrating to make films like Endgame. Blueprint for Global Enslavement 4 years ago. It's so frustrating to read the UN documents, to see the executive orders, to see their admitted plans, in their own words, for a global neo-feudalistic serf system, a post-industrial world, Maurice Strong, Ted Turner. And then to have the New York Times with this headline, activists fight green projects, seeing UN plot. And they admit, yeah, the UN is setting your local rules, but, you know, what's wrong with that? It's for the earth. It's not a plot. Really, when the city council announced 20 to 80% increases in power prices in the next year, they said it's for sustainability. You're using too much power. This will teach you to use less power. And it's General Electric that came in and helped shut down the other power plants so they can sell you less for more. I mean, I saw a London Telegraph article where they admitted it's a global scam. So we're waking up to the scam of insider corporations through the UN and through Republicans. It was George Herbert Walker Bush gave us this. It was all of these guys who got us signed on to the Earth Summit and all these rules. And none of it has to do with the environment. They're releasing genetically engineered mosquitoes to force inoculate us. That's in the news. Genetically modified mosquitoes are being released in Florida. They've got thousands of new GMO crops that in all the big studies, just type in crops, GMO crops linked to organ failure, sterility, and lab rats. Look at this article out of The Independent. GM food banned in Monsanto canteen. The GMO scientists working at Monsanto laboratories refuse to eat their own GMO. And just type in GMO corn linked to organ failure. I mean, it just kills the honeybees that eat it. Here's another one. China's elite enjoys untainted fruits. Asia Times says they're obsessed with not eating GMO. They signed a deal in the 70s to sterilize and reduce their population, one-child policy. Here's another one. London Telegraph. Queen Elizabeth Hall, 60 years of growing vegetables. They're obsessed with not eating GMO. Always talking about how they want to reduce our population. Here's another one. Royal vegetable garden takes root. Here's another one. Raw milk fans are getting a raw deal. Queen Elizabeth only eats raw milk, but it's illegal in England and in Canada and other British royal commonwealths to have raw milk, but the royalty have it. Here's another one, breaking it down. LA Times. In China, what you eat tells who you are. Obsessed with not taking vaccines. Obsessed with not drinking sodium fluoride. Chinese party officials maintain secret organic gardens while trying to force the population to eat the GMO Trojan horse. Time magazine, in Germany, a better vaccine for politicians. Comes out there's a secret program that the German military, upper brass, and German government all take, quote, secret vaccines that are clean. What's the problem with labeling genetically modified GMOs? They're now announcing the head of the FDA, who's former Monsanto, is coming out and saying they're not going to let you know if something is GMO. And saying the public doesn't trust it, so they're not going to let you know now. You're not going to be allowed to even label your own product. It's not just that you have to label it, it's that you're not allowed to label it. That's what they're trying to do right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so diabolical. The very groups that call for reducing our populations, Ted Turner, Prince Philip, just type in, you'll get Sunday Times of London, ABC News. World's elite meet in secret to discuss overpopulation. 3 years ago, they got caught meeting in secret at Rockefeller University. And who was there? Oprah Winfrey, big population control person, Ted Turner, the Rockefellers, Bill and Melinda Gates, big eugenicist, Warren Buffett, and, of course, George Soros, to discuss how global government, that was in the article, how global government could help reduce population. But Bill Gates says he wants to give you shots because he cares about you. And he wants you to eat GMO, but he's obsessed with not eating GMO, and so is the royal family. Look it up. They won't take the vaccines. They won't drink the fluoride. I've seen newscasts where it's just buried that, oh, the Queen has all her own farms and ranches, and they have chefs that follow them around the world and bring their food with them. And then you find out Ted Turner's doing it. Now, they know there's an exodus of educated people to the countryside to try to grow their own food and get away from this. Outside Austin in some of the towns like Wimberley, I discovered this years ago, because my children are homeschooled and going to different homeschooling events. It's doctors, scientists, biological weapons experts, you name it, all living out there knowing what's going on. And you'll be at some event and they're going, yeah, what are you going to do about it? You're not going to stop it. We've all come out here. And you find out they all know. The educated people all know about this. And we're going to talk to a lady. We're about to go to her, but I wanted to just get her on a little bit early for the full next hour, who discovered all of this as well and has written a book on it. And again, I've had a lot of experts, a lot of diplomats, advisors to Congress on, Dr. Michael Kaufman and others, but she's able to really tie it all together and give you the big picture of how it's going to affect you with Agenda 21, a global corporate takeover to shut down the rural areas. Remember what happened last year? EPA was saying $5,000 fines for dust from hay. No dust on your farm. But Big Agra, they're exempt. And Big Agra wrote those rules, animal ID, premises ID, to shut you down. What did the Soviets do? Shut down rural areas. What does Agenda 21 do? Same thing that is in Memorandum 200. State Department Memorandum 200 under Kissinger. Use food as a weapon. Austin just passed a law trying to harass and shut down people with their own chickens, with their own eggs. They're harassing Amish everywhere. People selling pecans. They're trying to pass laws outlawing all that. They're trying to shut down supplements. But Agenda 21 is about the takeover where you can't build your own barn. You can't have your own pond. Or if there is a, quote, wetland, now you can't build on your own property, even if you've owned it for 100 years. And what they announced in the U.S. and Europe just last week, the drones, type this in, drones being used to watch farmers, spy satellites watching rural communities in America and in Europe. This whole grid is on us. Stalin didn't want you to raise your own food. Now, we're about to go to break. I wanted to get her on just to kick off here at the start, right before the start of the second hour. And she's Rosa Corey. And she is an executive director of the Post-Sustainability Institute. She is a forensic commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain evaluation. She, again, has written a book on Agenda 21. A book is excellent. We'll tell you about that as well, exposing Agenda 21 and sustainable development. In the minute or two before we go to break, just give people a synopsis of what Agenda 21 is, and we'll come back and break down this global corporate takeover system.
Well, you know what? It's not that it's going to impact you. It's impacting you right now. Agenda 21 is a plan to inventory and control all resources, human and natural, and all means of production in the world. And this is the process that is happening right now in every single city, town, community, in the entire world. And you're seeing it right now in the United States. It's a global plan, and it's implemented locally.
We've got about a minute and a half before we go to break. How did you get tuned into this? How did you discover this?
Well, I've been doing research. Of course, I'm a forensic appraiser. I appraise property in the 9 counties of the San Francisco Bay Area. And in doing my research, I found in researching redevelopment, I found that it's a funding and implementation arm for United Nations Agenda 21. And in doing this research, I had to be able to support everything that I was coming up with, because I might have to at some point testify regarding this information. So everything that I've come up with, and of course this is available to all people. It's very available on the United Nations websites as well as many others. This is all true and supportable. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact, and it's happening right now.
It's happening right now through the zoning boards, all of it. It is so diabolical. I've been to the Smart Growth conferences. They admit this is total feudalism. Right here in Austin, giant power bill increases, and they say it's for the earth, just charging you more. Nothing is